overwhelming situation. I don't think we've ever had anything like this. I'll tell you, my insides are just really sick over this. I've heard people that down there by the doors that have family members in there. There was a girl down there with 5 people, all got shot up, and they're like frantic. What are you gonna do? And I can just feel the vibes from other people. So yeah, this is not good.
This is not good. Another mass shooting in America. And from politicians, thoughts and prayers. Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. As you saw at the top, another mass shooting. And this guy is still on the loose, said to have mental illness and other issues going on. We're going to bring you the very latest on that. And of course, the Republicans finally got a Speaker of the House, and Matt Gates, or however you say the MAGA man's name, gets his way. Donald Trump is fined again, but is threatening prosecutorial persecution of his political foes once he and his fellow Republicans return to office. And Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, among other things, are facing a lawsuit from 41 states saying that Facebook and Instagram target children with addictive features. And as breast cancer deaths decline in America, racial disparities are persistent in the mortality rates between Black and white women. We'll bring you the latest there. And where would you like to spend the night? How about this? In New York, a man spent more than 9 hours overnight trapped inside of a bank vault in Midtown. The vault finally opened on an automatic timer the next morning. How did that happen? We'll talk about that. But first, in Maine, at least 20 people were killed. Some reports say as many as 22 in a mass shooting at a restaurant and bowling alley in Lewiston. One local counselor said the death toll was 22. An intensive manhunt is underway for a suspect, and police are asking residents to shelter in place. Schools are closed, libraries are closed, everything is closed today. Lewiston is the state's second largest city and is about 36 miles north of Portland. Robert Card, who is 40 years old, is being sought as a person of interest, and Lewiston police said he should be considered armed and dangerous. The violence added to a list of 565 mass shootings across the United States this year alone. The shooting unfolded in part during a youth night at a local bowling alley, and witnesses described a desperate scene where people hid behind benches and tables and even inside the machine at the end of the lane where the pens are. One person, Riley Dumont, told reporters that she heard a loud bang, after which her father, a retired cop, corralled them into a corner and put protection in front of them, including tables and a big bench that the kids were hiding behind. She says, I was lying on top of my daughter. My mother was lying on top of me. This guy, Card, allegedly has a history of military service and is a firearms instructor. The source said he also has a mental health history, including a 2-week stay this past summer at a mental health facility after he allegedly made threats about shooting at a National Guard facility. Authorities have traced his white Subaru to a location in Lisbon, Maine, but the manhunt is continuing. Offices in Lewiston and Lisbon will be closed today until further notice. Once again, though, we saw a tweet. I'm not even going to mention the many politicians who tweeted out their thoughts and prayers, because that's all they ever do when it comes to that's all they allowed to do. Let's face it, because the gun advocates, the NRA, and everybody else is saying, look, you know where the money is. You know where the money is. You cannot speak against guns in the United States if you're a politician. but 22, at least 20 to 22 are dead. And this has happened at a kids event. It was a youth event. And Power 96 says, look how relaxed Maine's gun laws are. It's just that way across the country. The politicians on Capitol Hill are so far in the pockets of the NRA. And we've said this many times before. Potentially, the only way you're going to see more than just thoughts and prayers is if one of these politicians, and in particular, and it has to be a specific politician, it has to be a certain politician, it has to be a specific congressman or senator. But when it happens to them or their child or their spouse, maybe not even the spouse, because these people they vipers, they're cold-hearted, but maybe you'll see some change. Maybe you'll see them tell the NRA to take your money and go somewhere else. Mike V says, him being from New England, these type of events were inevitable. Folks walking around outside of Boston like an old Western. It's everywhere. If you go Pennsylvania, Delaware, just you name it. I go into a grocery store not far from where I'm at. Guys got their guns holstered like they're law enforcement. And it continues. And you can make that case for just about any city, town, state. Everywhere in the United States is now the Wild Wild West. And this stuff happens, and we'll talk about it. It's all over mainstream. And then tomorrow we'll talk about something else, as if it didn't happen. We know the tally, 565. 565 mass shootings. Mass shootings are defined, was it at least three victims, not including the shooter himself or herself. So mass shootings, 565. And he's at large. How do you do so much chaos, cause so much chaos, and still be at large? This guy is armed, seriously armed, seriously trained, military trained. So bringing him down or bringing him in is a tall task for law enforcement. As you see the photos there, I mean, the guy's he knew exactly what he was doing with that weapon. Wow. And again, the people that they elect say that we're sorry. They may even send a card to the families. Who wants a card? And speaking of politicians, Matt Gaetz, the Mr. MAGA himself, his gamble has paid off. He's the far right House Republican who got Kevin McCarthy kicked off as Speaker, saying that McCarthy was too willing to compromise with Democrats. Well, the new Speaker, Mike Johnson, is as hard right-wing, as seriously MAGA as he is, as a pet of Donald Trump, as much as there can be a pet of Donald Trump. And he's in. He is in. He says we have both. This is what Matt Gaetz said. We both have a man and a plan. It's just so ominous. You know, and Johnson had little national profile until he emerged as the candidate for Speaker just this week. Nobody really knew Mike Johnson. In fact, somebody voted for Mike Rogers and said, "Oh no, I meant Mike Johnson." Even in his own caucus, he's little. What he is known for, though. What he is known for, he is a staunch staunch MAGA guy. He is anti-abortion, and the thing is, okay, anti-abortion, but here's the when they say they pro-abortion, when they say anti-abortion, here's the thing with that. That's your personal. It should be just your personal opinions or feelings or thoughts. Isn't it supposed to be Mike V, Power 96? Isn't it supposed to be what your constituents? You're supposed aren't as a senator, as a congressperson, aren't you supposed to vote how your constituents feel and think and want and need? Johnson was also instrumental. He was one of the instrumental players in trying to overturn the 2020 election. He even got 175 Republican signatures to try to invalidate Texas's results and to go on a national crusade. Now, this guy, is far-reaching because now he's in a position as the speaker. He's in a position as the speaker now when the election rolls around next year. And if he and Trump and others don't like the results, he's in the seat that can actually overturn it. This guy was part of many believe, was part of that group with Jim Jordan that incited the insurrection. Power 96 says he's a redneck from Louisiana. Just wait until the next presidential election. When Trump loses again, he will definitely stop the count. And that's the point. And it's not just Trump, but other Republicans who they might believe they can't afford to lose. But it's so interesting how they put him in that spot. But who else were they going to put there? He's also proposed bills to. The one thing he's done that jumping Jim Jordan didn't do was Jordan never put forth any legislation, but this guy, the legislation he's proposed, of course, includes blocking discussion on sexual orientation or gender identity. He opposes, as we said, abortion rights. He opposes same-sex marriages, and he's a big book ban guy. Doesn't want books about folks of color to circulate. In fact, just yesterday, President Biden's campaign team labeled him MAGA Mike. And while Donald Trump said that he will do a great job, this is their statements yesterday. This is amazing, watching this stuff unfold and watching folks get excited and deflated by the process. It's really interesting. So Mike Johnson is from Louisiana, and they say he has this smooth like demeanor, but behind closed doors, he's an animal. And he tells you how he really feels. So it's one of those guys. And if you've watched any yesterday, he seemed all humble when he was being elected. But this guy's a character. They all are characters. Who would do better? Who would do worse? And speaking of his idol, Donald Trump, he went on a tirade yesterday as Michael Cohen continues to testify against him. The problem with Michael Cohen's testimony, though, in all fairness, Michael Cohen continues to contradict himself on the witness stand. And you gotta wonder, Power 96, if that is part of the strategy of Donald Trump. We keep seeing how everyone's turned against him, but I keep saying, are they really? Are they really turning again? So by him contradicting himself on the stand, and he is Letitia James' star witness. The only thing that is going to prevent Donald Trump from losing that particular case, and he's lost it going into it, is the fact that they don't have a jury trial, which Trump is raging about now. That it's a trial, it's a bench trial, and he's like raging about the fact that, oh, see, this is supposed to be America. Where's the jury, folks? It was his team, who decided a bench trial. Everyone has a right to decide whether it's a criminal case or a civil case. You have a right to a jury trial, or it's up to you. It's not up to the prosecution at all. The prosecution cannot object if you say, I want a bench trial or you want a jury trial. And every expert from the beginning, in this case here, this is the business fraud trial of Donald Trump. Every expert said when his attorneys elected to go for a bench trial, they were like, okay, what's going on here? This is a malpractice of justice. This is a malpractice for your defendant. And the fact that Trump signed off on it, now he's raging about it. The judge is corrupt. Of course, everyone's corrupt according to that guy. And then the judge then put him on the stand. It was like high drama in New York yesterday. They put him on the stand and asked him, "Were you talking when his latest Truth Social post? Are you talking about my clerk?" The judge fined him $10,000. He got fined $5,000 last week and $10,000 this week, which flies in the face of the harshest penalty, which would have been to put him in jail. But he's threatening everyone. Biden, he says once he gets in, they all go into jail. In some cases, he says they need to, talking about that general, I guess he got plans for executions. Hey, this is what's on the table. And it's not like he's hiding this. It's not like you don't know. Mike V says the tangerine tyrant didn't think about a fair trial when he went after the Central Park Five. Yeah, but notice how all of that gets swept away. All of that gets lost. Not swept away, but lost. What is his name? Salam. Is it Salam? The one that won the New York City Council seat. He was at our NMPA's awards ceremony in September in Washington. And he said that he took out ads. The Central Park Five, the exonerated five, did take out ads once Trump was indicted. But yeah. Power 96 says, I have never seen a person violate a gag order twice and still remain free. That judge is just issuing empty threats. And that's exactly how Trump and his team sees it, because they walk outside the courtroom. As soon as he issues, he fined him last week, fined him this week, reprimanded him. And as soon as that happens, he stands up, he walks out. In the court proceedings, you can leave anytime you want. Of course, there's not just a criminal trial and you're defended, but civil trial, whatever, you can walk out. You can't just walk in. You got to wait for a certain time to walk in if something's going on or whatever. But he gets up, he walks out, and he immediately, of course, is surrounded by his favorite group of people, journalists, with microphones in their hands. And he starts railing. Then he goes back into the courtroom, and the judge says, "Are you breaking the gag order?" "No, sir, I'm not. I have First Amendment rights." So it's such a joke. It's like, why bother? Why bother? The Attorney General wants to make sure, this is why she bothers. She wants to make sure he never does business in New York again. But remember, He has an extensive hit list, and Letitia James and Fonnie Willis, you guys topped the list. And if, in fact, he does get back in, Letitia James will not be practicing law. She will not be the attorney general in New York, and she will not be practicing law. So it's all or nothing for her. It's all or nothing for Fonnie Willis. It's all or nothing for Jack Smith. It's all or nothing for a lot of folks. And that's why I question Michael Cohen's, his former attorney's testimony, changing his testimony, not once, but at least 2 or 3 times. I think the intimidation is there for sure. And Michael Cohen looks like a guy who would be susceptible to a lot of fear. And Trump, like him or not, he does exude the type of a person that you would probably want to fear based on the fact that he has so much power. And that power is in his followers. You don't have to worry about him doing something to you. It's his followers. And Power 96 is he probably was watching Shaft yesterday. We did a tribute to Shaft, and he probably was watching Shaft yesterday because he just wrote in that Cohen is a jive turkey, which is a 1970s term, jive turkey. They used to say that like on Good Times and stuff. Remember, Walona Wood said that a lot. Walona would be like, jive turkey. So Mike V says you have to look at MAGA as a cartel and not a political party. They don't govern. Trump is always in court while his foot soldiers so time for him waiting to turn state's evidence. Yeah, Meadows, they're trying to save themselves. And I think part of that is that they watched all of those people from January 6th get major prison time. And Trump has done nothing. Harrison Floyd, or whatever his name, the black guy, the one black guy in the 19 that was indicted in Atlanta, who stayed in jail the longest, like Trump, and went to the jail and waved that, hey, have a nice time, and kept going. And he's come out spouting off at the mouth, going after Fonnie Willis, calling her names and things like that. You're not Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has shown he's not backing you. You backed him. He has other things on his mind. Donald Trump does. He's got 91 charges that he's facing. Criminal charges, felony charges, all felony charges. He's Harrison is like the president of the group called Blacks for Trump. It's unbelievable. Well, as Mike V says, enough of the tangerine tyrant, as Barrington says, the orange jumpsuit. Trump's coming after y'all, Mike and Barrington, coming after y'all too. How about Meta? They were sued by more than 36 states for knowingly using features on Instagram and Facebook to hook children to its platforms, even as the company said its social media sites were safe for young people. Colorado and California led a joint lawsuit filed by 33 states in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, saying that Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, violated consumer protection laws by unfairly ensnaring children and deceiving users about the safety of its platforms. The District of Columbia and 8 other states also filed separate suits against Meta with most of the same claims. In the complaint, the state's attorneys general, they argued that Meta had designed psychologically manipulative product features to induce young users compulsive and extended use of platforms like Instagram. The company's algorithms were designed to push children and teenagers into rabbit holes of toxic and harmful content. That's what the states alleged in their filing. They said they have features like infinite scroll and persistent alerts used to hook young users. The attorneys general also said that Meta was violating a federal children's online privacy law, accusing it of unlawfully collecting the personal data of its youngest users without their parents' permission. They said Meta has harnessed powerful and unprecedented technologies to entice, engage, and ultimately ensnare youth and teens. Its motive is profit. Meta said it was working to provide a safer environment for teenagers on its apps and has introduced more than 30 tools to support teenagers and families. They said they were disappointed with the lawsuits because they were working to correct these things. But the fact that they say they was working to correct these things says it all. Why was it there in the first place? Wow. This is and all the misinformation and disinformation that's out there. They're targeting kids. No surprise, right? Because that's the other thing. We talked about lawmakers. This lawmakers and this generation, this world seems like don't care much about kids anymore. Used to be that children are the future. I believe the children are. Remember that song? Whitney Houston did it justice, right? Not anymore. Kids are left behind in so many things. So, folks, as breast cancer deaths decline in America, racial disparities persist, and the mortality rates between Black and white women, those rates remain 40% higher for Black women, who are also more likely than white women to be diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 50 and to get the rare and aggressive triple negative subtype of the disease. Black women's diagnoses are also usually more severe than white women's, even at younger ages. The reasons for these disparities, medical people say it's complicated and involves everything from late diagnosis to doctors dismissing patient symptoms to a lack of representation in cancer cure research. Now, we know that the latter two are really problems. I mean, all of them are really problems. When you talk about the late diagnoses, um, but the doctors dismissing Black women's symptoms, and then of course there's Black folks. We don't participate in clinical trials. It's just a fact. Now, doctors and health agencies are working to combat these disparities. The National Institutes of Health, for instance, have started funding more research and programs dedicated to helping minority populations. And among other actions noted by doctors at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they've started urging patients to breastfeed because research has shown that breastfeeding to be particularly beneficial in preventing triple negative breast cancer. But in the United States, breastfeeding rates are much lower than other countries. And Black women, according to the medical community, Black women are less likely to breastfeed overall and more likely to do so for a shorter period of time than white women. They emphasize that breast cancer screening can save your life. So it's important to familiarize yourself with guidance for your age group. And so some recommendations on screening. So for women over 50, or under 50, I should say, the recommendations have changed. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force guidance is targeted at women who are at an average risk of breast cancer, which includes women with dense breasts and a family history of breast cancer. Women who are high risk due to certain genetic mutations, a history of radiation therapy, or previous biopsies or lesions, they should consult their doctors for individualized screening plans. For women who are under 40, they are not advised to be screened for breast cancer, but that doesn't mean their risk factor is zero. The downside risks of mammograms outweigh the potential upside, according to the CDC. The Preventative Services Task Force changed its recommendations for women between the ages of 40 and 50 this year. All women from age 40 to 74 are now encouraged to start getting screened every other year. Previously, the recommendation was for women ages 40 to 50 to make an individual decision with their doctors about screening. So you see the change there. And the recommendation for women between 50 and 75 has stayed the same, but they should be sure to get their screenings. The task force is still collecting information as to the best recommendations for women over 75. These women should consult their doctors for individualized screening plan, particularly Black women. Everything affects us, Black men and women, more than anybody else. Michelle matters. Michelle is always she's always got something for us. She says, I breastfeed both of my children for around 6 months. I love the experience. That's great. That's awesome. Well, folks, I can think of a lot of places where I would like to stay overnight. A lot. I think I've gone to many places where I enjoyed staying overnight. But how about this guy in New York yesterday? He spent more than 9 hours trapped inside of a bank vault in Manhattan. The vault finally opened on an automatic timer at around 6:15 a.m. and set him free. The customer was accessing his safety deposit box in the basement of the World Diamond Tower at 580 Fifth Avenue when the doors closed, and he became trapped at around 8:45 p.m. Fire department officials said the community vault is owned by DGA Security and utilized by a number of Diamond District businesses. Once it's closed, it's on a timing mechanism. That vault does not reopen until a certain amount of time passes. Firefighters tried to cut through the vault's concrete wall, but once they hit metal plating, they decided to wait until it would automatically unlock in the morning. They said the problem with the plating is that they'd have to use torches, which would infect the environment of the individual inside the vault. So work crews used a telephone and cameras that was inside the vault to communicate with the man the entire time, making sure that he was okay. He was later treated by EMS on the scene and released with no injuries. My question is, did he come out with any money? I mean, he's in the vault. I guess there was too many he had cameras and stuff in there. He couldn't come out with the money. Spent the night in the vault. That had to be scary though. And good thing that I guess it's a good thing his cell phone was working. That his battery wasn't dead or something like that. And then that he got service. And I need to find out what service he has. Maybe he has like T-Mobile or something like that. Austin, look at Austin. Austin had to say something all the way from Dubai. He's hanging out in Dubai. He says, put Trump in one of those vaults and leave for good. And Power 96 says, now who's going to pay for the damaged door? The things y'all think of. Nobody said, I'm glad he made it out okay. But y'all just going all in on the man. Wow. I don't know. I don't know who's paying for the door. It's certainly not the fire department. And maybe they're going to hold the guy. Maybe they're going to hold him accountable. How did he get locked in? That's the mystery of that story. How did he get locked in? And Power 96, of course, he says his flip phone works everywhere. He's got that phone from, you remember Obama phones? Power 96 still got the Obama phone and it's working well. This guy, he does a show on HBCUs, athletes and stuff, and you see him with the flip phone. This guy is really interesting. We gotta get Power 96 to talk sports with us one day. And before we leave, you got the battery lasts 12 hours, he said. It's like that commercial, right? Still going. Before we go, we're going to say congratulations to our own Denise Rolock Barnes, the Washington Association of Black Journalists 2023 award celebration will continue, or has continued, I said, with the announcement that Denise, the publisher and second generation owner of the Washington Informer, is a recipient of this year's WABJ President's Award. The WABJ president presents this award each year to a member who has made significant contributions to the organization's growth and reach in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. In a statement, the president said, the Washington Informer, under Denise Rolock Barnes and her leadership, has been a longtime partner and supporter of our longstanding urban journalism workshop for D.C. area high school students. The publication's support of WABJ's inaugural awards gala last year was instrumental to its tremendous success. Denise has not only demonstrated outstanding leadership and commitment to community building, but also worked assiduously to ensure the Informer is a trusted source of news and information about the local Black community. The executive board praised Denise for her diligence. Denise will be honored at the WABJ Special Honors and Scholarship Gala on Saturday, December 2nd at the Armour J. Blackburn University Center on the campus of Howard University. And also, Erica Lowe from the Biden-Harris administration and NBC's Kristen Welker, Huffington Post editor Phil Lewis are among those who will also receive honors. And Denise is watching this morning. She says, thank you. Couldn't do it without you and the entire WI team. And here's Austin sucking up from Dubai. Says, congratulations, Denise, my favorite boss. Come on, Austin. All the way from across the world, he's got to suck up a little bit. Oh boy, wait till he gets back. Austin's creating havoc over there in the UAE, and now he's coming. Look, he's got laughing. He's laughing at me. That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna unleash Barrington on Austin when he gets back. But congratulations, Denise. Well deserved. You know, she's taken over that paper. You know, I'm sure that she would trade it off for some more years with her dad. But I'm sure if he was there to see what the job she's done, he couldn't be more proud of the job she's done. One of the top newspapers in the Black press family, more than 230 newspapers and media companies in the NMPA, but certainly none stand above the Washington Informer and the work that's being done there day in and day out. So congratulations, well deserved to Denise Rolock Barnes. And Denise Austin, she says, no sucking up. As long as you make your deadline, you're good. She says, make sure you make your deadline. So there you have it. Even though you're all the way over there, she wants the stories in on time. And that's why the Washington Informer is one of the best out there, not just in the Black press, but in general. No better news to be found. Thanks for watching this morning, and we will see you again tomorrow.